General Tuku Yusuf Buratai, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you, Stephen.
A couple of years ago, your president, the new president, he set you a clear mission to eradicate Boko Haram. He said it could be done within months. It would be fair to say, would it not, that you have failed in that mission?
We've not failed. We've achieved that particular mandate as at that time. We were appointed on 13th of July, and on the day of our decoration, we were given that mandate to end the Boko Haram on the by the end of December of 2015, and we set out to work. And
yeah, well, I'm gonna stop you and try to make this as simple as possible. As you say, by December 2015, there were claims coming from both the military and from the presidency that Boko Haram had been eliminated. But those claims, as we've seen over the last 18 months, were completely wrong.
No, eliminated. I don't think anybody has said Boko Haram has been eliminated. We know terrorism globally is...
well, forgive me, I'm just looking at a direct quote. President Buhari, December 2015, the insurgency has been, quote, technically defeated.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean it's eliminated.
And a military official, we can beat our chest and decisively say we have dealt with Boko Haram.
Yes.
Well, come on, let's be clear. Well, you haven't dealt with Boko Haram. I don't know how many details I need to give you of recent incidents.
Let's look at it in this perspective. The terrorism is something that, is resilient, all right? Today, you have gained tremendously. Tremendous success has been achieved. Take, for example, at the time we were appointed, take for example Borno State, where the terrorism or the insurgency is most of the Boko Haram terrorists. How many local governments were under their control, where there were no any presence of government authority in that location?
But it's not just a question of how many square miles of territory that you have recovered. It's also a question of whether the people of that particular region of your country are still being terrorized. I've just been looking at the figures. Just a couple of months ago, 18 girls were abducted from close to the Cameroon border, a village called Pulka. Newsweek magazine of Nigeria has calculated, I think in the first 6 months of this year, there were 48 different Boko Haram attacks. You may have taken a lot of territory back, but you haven't managed to end the reign of terror.
Well, look at what we have on the ground. Before May 2015, the Boko Haram were even in Abuja. They were in Kano. They were in Kaduna. They were penetrating down up to the south. Okay, we had to stop them. And for the past 1.5 years, you've not had any attack in Jos, no, either in Abuja or Kano or many other places, even as close as Gombe, where there have been several attacks. We never had it. Now they are only concentrated within certain areas in Borno State.
But they are
and
still
then part
terrorizing the people.
Yobe
The
State.
UN agencies say that still the scale of the insecurity is such that the displaced peoples cannot come back. We know that the real threat of hunger, malnutrition and famine exists, and insecurity is a huge part of that. So you, as the head of the army, still surely have to accept that far from being complete, your mission has barely begun.
Well, that is where we now look at the reconstruction aspect. And we have to see the return of the civil administration, return of the law and other agencies like the police, all right? And this is what we are working at. If we talk in terms of militarily, the Boko Haram has been defeated.
One of the elements of restoring stability, peace and order to the regions most affected by Boko Haram is winning the trust of the ordinary people.
Yeah.
How can the local people be confident when, as Amnesty International reported in their most recent report of February this year, the military is arbitrarily arresting thousands of young men, women and children based simply on profiling, they say. They're being put into detention facilities like the Giwa barracks in Maiduguri, where the cells, and this I'm quoting Amnesty, forgive me, but it's quite long, the cells are overcrowded, disease, dehydration, starvation was rife. At least 240 detainees died during the last year. Bodies were secretly buried in Maiduguri's cemetery by the Borno State Environmental Protection Agency. That is a scandal, it is shocking, and how can you possibly defend it?
Well, it's interesting, but let me tell you, we've been vindicated. The special board of inquiry that was set up, by the army, headed by independent personality, in the person of General A.T. Jibrin, retired, has clearly stated that there were no any arbitrary arrests, there were no arbitrary killing. Whatever comes out of, within that detention facilities, these are things that are likely to, are bound to happen anywhere. And look at there was this outbreak of diseases.
Your board of inquiry was headed up by a retired general.
Yeah.
President Buhari promised many months ago that there would be an independent investigation. There has been no independent investigation.
Well, this is still in the process. It's a promise. I believe it will be kept.
Why has there not been
independent
investigation?
I cannot give that reason.
But if you want the confidence of the people of Borno State and the other parts of your country, surely the most basic thing is to hold your own forces to account.
Well, we are holding them accountable. We have a standing, as far as the military operations is concerned, we have a standing court-martial, which is responsible, for trying any of our officers or soldiers that have been found wanting in, following military justice system. And of recent, some of them have been, convicted of the violation or some other crimes.
Amnesty named 9 individuals, officers, who they say should face the most serious investigation and criminal indictment. How many of those 9 are still serving today in your forces?
Well, I don't know of any of those 9. Precisely.
Isn't the answer that all of them are still serving? You haven't actually
whether they are serving,
any of them.
No, the point is whether they are serving. As far as we are concerned, we've investigated the case against them. All right, and same board of inquiry had done its work and found out that those things were not directly linked to them.
The internal board of inquiry, but to be honest, I'm less interested in your internal investigation. I'm more interested in external investigation, which has not happened.
But that one was, the allegations have not been substantiated. Those are mere allegations, and they couldn't even substantiate it. They were made. They were told to substantiate the allegation against these officers.
Let me ask you your reaction to a report just issued by the United States government, which says that there is evidence. This is in their Trafficking in Persons report that they put out every year. Evidence that the Nigerian army has been exploiting children, quote, using children as young as 12 years old in support roles. Is that true?
Well, it's not true. If you ask me directly in my personal capacity.
Well, I'm asking you as head of the army, not
all right,
in your personal
capacity.
The
head of the army. You see, there are complexities in such issues. How do you determine a child who is 12 years? I'm not saying we are employing, child, to be used as, in
this isn't
the
a grey
civilian
area,
jet.
General. You should simply not be employing children.
We are not. I'm saying we are not. All right, we are not.
Well, the United States
even the
says
United
you are.
States,
I could go on. There's more.
the United States,
the Nigerian security forces, again from the US
yes.
report, has continued to detain and arrest children for alleged association with Boko Haram. So not only are you employing children in support roles, which the US says is completely wrong, you are also consistently and systematically detaining and arresting children.
You see, there are clear lines, okay? We have what we refer to the international humanitarian law and law of armed conflict, okay? We very much know these rules, the best international practices. There is no way the Nigerian army will pick a child, all right, and get him employed and serve anywhere. This is an allegation.
Yes, the United States is a partner and an ally, but they, during the Obama administration, stopped selling you weapons because of all of these allegations of abuses by your security forces. Does it not trouble you?
It's the same Amnesty International report that they are relying on, and the same Amnesty that forwarded that recommendation to the Obama administration. All right, that certain weapons and so on should not be sold to the Nigerian government. But you see, when you talk of terrorism, it's a responsibility at global level. Every nation should be responsible to see that this terrorism is defeated globally.
Let me ask you about, if I may, I've dealt with some of the allegations of abuses against your forces, but there's one particular story which grabbed world attention, a huge amount of sympathy at the time. 2013, the Chibok school was raided by Boko Haram militants. They took away more than 200 schoolgirls. Ever since, there's been a huge focus on getting those girls back. Now, in the recent past, we saw, I believe, 82 were freed. First of all, what deal did you do to get those 82 girls back?
As far as the release of those 82 Chibok girls are concerned, we perform our role where we provided the safe passage, for those that have been released.
Did you release Boko Haram militants in return?
I did not release, but the government, that is a government decision. It's not an army responsibility.
The reports were that 5 senior militants, Boko Haram fighters, were released from prison in return.
That is the report, okay?
So as a military man, what message do you believe that sends to Boko Haram and other militants in your country?
That's a political decision. It's not a military decision. It's a political decision, and in the best interest of the nation and the best interest of, in the best of circumstances, I think the government felt, yes, that is the best course to be taken.
Do you personally think it was regrettable?
Personally, I don't think it has its own advantage. While there are, probably some other sides, disadvantages, but it has its own advantages.
The message, is quite clear to the Boko Haram leadership that if they can take more schoolgirls, more innocent civilians, and demand in return for their release, the release of people in your prisons, you will accede to that demand.
If they are given the chance to do that, okay? That's if they are given the chance to do that. I don't believe they will have that chance to have mass abductions as they were doing before.
Let's quickly talk about one other region where there has long been instability, that is the Niger Delta. Over many years, we've seen militants loosely coalesced around a group called MEND, attacking oil installations, demanding monies, causing real instability. There was a government program to buy off some of those militant leaders. I think it's cost the government well over $100 million in various forms of financial recompense to some of the militants themselves. It hasn't worked, has it?
Well, it has worked. I believe it has worked.
Why did oil production fall by a third in 2016?
Those are criminal activities, which I want to believe by certain individuals.
The same sorts of attacks on oil installations that were supposed to be ended by all of this compensation money.
Well, that's why you still have criminal activities going on, not only in the Niger Delta, but in other parts of the country.
I suppose that's my point, General, that for all of your assurances, both you as a military man and the President as the political leader of the country, assurances that you're on top of the security situation in all of these different regions of your country, the truth on the ground is that you're not.
Well, we are in firm control. Security, when you look at it, globally, is something that you should continue to tackle as they arise. You continue to tackle. You cannot just overnight wake up and wish that all security challenges are gone. And even here in the UK, other parts of the world will continue to have these challenges. Go to the Middle East, go to other parts of Europe and so on. You have all those challenges. So we continue to face these threats, and we continue to address them as they arise.
Well, I talked from the beginning of this interview about the degree of trust and confidence Nigerians have in the military on the ground, and we've talked about the different regions, and you've tried to assure me that your men are doing their very best in difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
But one of the overarching problems Nigeria faces, and I imagine you would agree with me, is corruption. A recent report from Transparency International says that Nigerian military officers, as well as politicians, have been enriching themselves by diverting money that was supposed to go to the security forces' fight against terror.
Well, this is, you know very well, some cases are already in court, and some are still being investigated. So I think the courts will handle them appropriately, and the investigating agencies will also go further to investigate as much as possible.
For you as head of the army, how can you tolerate the fact that still today, according to Transparency International, there are ghost soldiers on your payroll who are being fictitiously created by senior officers who are pocketing their salaries?
It's not true. Since the advent of this administration, they've introduced what they call the Integrated Personnel Pay System, IPPS, and also we have long made our payrolls computerized. Everybody with his biometrics. We've done that long ago, around 2013. Yeah, we started around 2013, and there is nothing like ghost workers. In the army in particular.
Military officers' pay in Nigeria is not that high, is it?
Well, it's relative also.
Well, I know, but in US dollar terms, roughly what do you earn? Well, I ask this in the spirit of transparency because Mr. Buhari and other politicians have said, we in Nigeria...
Well, we are paid by the government. It's not the army that pays the officers and soldiers. It's the government that pays us.
I understand that.
So I think the right question should go to the government,
you're on a salary, right? You're a public official on a salary.
Yes.
I mean, how come then that you yourself own 2 substantial properties in Dubai?
It's not true. It's not true. These are all fake. It's not true.
Well, they're in the name of your wife, but they are your family properties.
It's not true. But
what's not true about it?
Listen. Substantial property. What is substantial property? This is just an investment, just like any other.
These, as I understand it, are these are just out of Dubai that are worth well over $1 million US dollars.
It's not true.
Well, how much are they worth then?
It's not true.
Because the anti-corruption campaigner in your country, Femi Falana, says it is an outrage that you've got these properties. He says there's no way that you could have bought these assets from your saved salary. So Nigerians want to know, where did you get the money from?
Stereotype. My family is into other businesses, okay? And they do their own private businesses. They should afford to have, to invest. We didn't have any property. We are investing. A time-shared property investment. It's not only. I don't have. I mean, family has never even entered those properties.
It's just that on the front line there are soldiers working for you. You're the commander of the Nigerian army.
Yeah.
They are on pitiful wages, and according to various different independent analyses, not least from the United States, they are very poorly resourced and poorly armed in the fight against Boko Haram. I wonder how they will feel learning that you and your family own these properties in Dubai.
What property? Just tell me, what type of property? That's my question. We don't have
know
any
very
property.
Well what property.
It's not a property.
The Code of Conduct Bureau actually ran an investigation into your properties.
Yes.
And in the end, they said it was okay. You declared the assets. But
yes.
Don't tell me you don't know about these properties.
That is not the type of property you are talking of. It's not the one that you think is what most people are saying. Estate as houses. I know it's not a house. Okay. It's a time-shared property that you invest into. It's not a property that particular.
General, the question remains: how do you think your guys on the front line, who are poorly resourced,
when was it bought into? Those properties.
It's your property.
As far back as 2013, when I was not even chief of army staff. I never dreamt that I would even become chief of army staff. And people are using it as if it is today, or the time I was appointed.
So to be clear, when the human rights lawyer Femi Falana says you should resign because your explanation of where you got the money from, to quote him, not me, him, he says it's a cock and bull story.
It's not mine, it's my family. It's my family.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
Final question for you. We have catalogued the different challenges that your security forces face, and indeed your political leadership. One of the problems today is that your president is very seriously ill. I believe he's still here in London, although the Nigerian people seem very confused about where he is and what his condition is. Can you, as head of the army, tell me what's going on?
No, this is a private issue, a concern, Mr. President. I think I don't have any comment on that.
Earlier this year, you did warn anyone, either in the military or anywhere else, who was thinking of using this period of instability to sort of launch a leadership bid or play politics within the military. You warned them off it. So you're clearly worried that there is, at the moment, a bit of a vacuum at the top.
There is no vacuum. We just a sort of preemptive warning, in terms of what transpired, just before this administration came on board.
Why did you issue that warning? Did you sense that there were some in the armed forces who might be pursuing political ambitions?
Well, it's good once in a while to really, based on our own knowledge, based on our experiences, to tell the officers, that there are bounds. We must remain within the constitutional, boundaries, that we've been assigned.
And General, just a final question: How long can this situation continue, where Nigeria's president is not able to be in the country and certainly not able to offer the country leadership? He's simply physically unable.
No. There are constitutional provisions. There is never a vacuum. So what is happening there? We have an acting president. I think whatever is happening, Mr. President should be allowed to recuperate and get stronger and go back home. I think that's the only way. There is never a vacuum, and there shouldn't be any cause for concern or any alarm. I think that's my position.
General Buratai, I thank you very much for being on HardTalk.
Thank you. Welcome, Steve.